As a doctor, I know that many of you take a pill every day for your heart, your cholesterol, or maybe for acid reflux. You trust that medication is helping your body. But what if it's also, subtly, changing who you are? We're now seeing more and more research showing that some very common, non-psychiatric drugs might be the hidden culprits behind unexplained mood swings, anxiety, or even significant shifts in personality. Today, I want to walk you through 10 everyday medications that could be altering the way you think and feel. Now, the information I'm about to share isn't speculation. It's grounded in scientific studies, case reports, and data from millions of patients. My goal here is not to cause fear, but to create awareness. The person you are, your thoughts, your emotions, your sense of self, is invaluable. If a medication meant to help your body is inadvertently affecting your mind, you deserve to know about it. We'll count down from number 10. I'll explain the science, the potential side effects, and what you should look out for. And please, stick with me to the end, because the last few on our list are taken by tens of millions of people every single day. Let's begin our countdown with a cornerstone of modern heart medicine, beta blockers. You might know them by names like metoprolol, atenolol, or propranolol. Millions of people rely on them daily to manage high blood pressure and protect their hearts. They work by blocking the effects of adrenaline, which slows the heart down and takes pressure off your cardiovascular system. They are, without a doubt, life-saving drugs. But here's the issue we need to discuss. While they protect your heart, some can have a quiet impact on your mind. Certain beta blockers are lipophilic, meaning they can cross the blood-brain barrier and directly influence your central nervous system. While early reports raise concerns about a link to clinical depression, more recent, large-scale analyses haven't found a consistent connection, with some even suggesting a reduced risk. What is more consistently reported, however, is a different set of psychological side effects. Patients sometimes describe a crushing sense of fatigue that isn't just physical, but mental. Some studies have noted a higher incidence of vivid, disturbing nightmares and insomnia, particularly with more lipophilic beta blockers like propranolol. Imagine going to bed hoping for rest, only to have frightening dreams night after night. Over time, that chronic sleep disruption alone can alter your waking personality, leaving you irritable and foggy. This happens because these drugs can reduce the brain's production of melatonin, the hormone that regulates our sleep. It's also interesting to note some studies have suggested that by taming the fight-or-flight response, beta blockers might even have a mellowing effect on people prone to high stress or aggression. The takeaway is this. If you're on a beta blocker and have noticed a slow, creeping change, a new mental fatigue or persistent sleep problems, it might not just be you. It could be the pill you take every morning. The solution is never to just stop the medication. That can be dangerous. But to start a conversation with your doctor about these possible side effects. Coming in at number 9 is a class of drugs so powerful they're often called a miracle cure, corticosteroids. If you've had severe asthma, a crippling arthritis flare-up, or a major allergic reaction, you've likely encountered prednisone or dexamethasone. These are potent anti-inflammatory agents that work by suppressing the immune system on a massive scale. For autoimmune diseases, they can be life-saving. But this miracle can have a dark side, a psychological cost that is surprisingly common. The same power that controls inflammation can also cause extreme and unpredictable changes in who you are. The spectrum of psychiatric side effects is vast. Many patients first feel a rush of euphoria or energy. They might feel invincible, but this high can quickly sour. Irritability is one of the most common complaints, not just crankiness, but a hair-triggered temper that can erupt over nothing. This is often paired with severe mood swings, plunging from euphoria into a deep depression, sometimes in the same day. In more severe cases, corticosteroids can induce true mania, delusions, and hallucinations. A review of studies shows a significant portion of users experience these effects. This happens because the drug floods your body with a synthetic version of the stress hormone cortisol, overwhelming your brain's stress response system and disrupting key neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. Over time, high levels can even cause physical changes in the brain, including shrinkage in the hippocampus, a region critical for memory and mood. The positive is that these drugs save lives. But this benefit requires awareness of the potential psychological fallout. If you're prescribed steroids, it's vital to let your family know to watch for these changes. Understanding that the sudden rage or sadness is a chemical side effect, not a character flaw, makes all the difference. At number 8, we have something in almost every medicine cabinet: antihistamines. You take them for allergies, an itch, or maybe to help you sleep. Drugs like cetirizine, Zyrtec, and the classic diphenhydramine, Benadryl, are incredibly common. They work by blocking histamine, calming down an allergic reaction. But there's a key distinction that matters for your mind: the difference between first-generation and second-generation antihistamines. Older first-generation drugs like Benadryl readily cross into the brain. Newer ones like Zyrtec are designed to stay out, which is why they're non-drowsy. The ones that get into your brain are the ones that can trigger behavioral changes. While drowsiness is well known, the effect can be more extreme. Instead of sedation, some people, especially children and the elderly, can have a paradoxical reaction: agitation, aggression, and restlessness. In adults, the effects can manifest as confusion, disorientation, and brain fog. This happens because these older antihistamines also have a strong anticholinergic effect, blocking a neurotransmitter that's vital for learning and memory. This anticholinergic effect is also why long-term use has become a concern. Some studies have found a dose-dependent link between long-term use of H1 antihistamines with strong anticholinergic properties and an increased risk of dementia. It's important to be clear: the risk is highest with the older first-generation drugs. Newer second-generation ones like cetirizine have a much better safety profile from a cognitive standpoint. The positive, of course, is effective allergy relief. But the next time you feel inexplicably foggy or irritable, consider the allergy pill you took. The connection is more real than most people realize. Our 7th entry is another pillar of heart medicine: calcium channel blockers. Known by names like amlodipine, Norvasc, they're prescribed to millions for high blood pressure. They work by relaxing blood vessels, which lowers blood pressure and makes the heart's job easier. They are highly effective and often chosen because they don't cause the same fatigue as beta blockers. The potential issue, however, is that calcium channels are also fundamental to how your brain's nerve cells communicate, regulating the release of the very chemicals that control your mood. When a drug meant for blood pressure crosses into the brain and interferes with this system, your personality can be affected. Some observational studies have suggested an association between these drugs and a higher risk of mood disorders, such as new-onset depression or anxiety. However, it's important to state that the evidence here is mixed and largely associative, not proof of cause and effect. Many large studies show no significant mood effects, and some research has even explored their potential to help with certain psychiatric conditions by stabilizing overactive brain circuits. This just shows how individual the response can be. For one person, the effect might be stabilizing; for another, destabilizing. The key insight is that your emotional state is tied to the precise chemical signaling in your brain. A drug that changes the fundamental flow of ions like calcium can therefore change your emotional landscape. The benefit of safely lowering blood pressure is undeniable. But if you've started a calcium channel blocker and noticed a gradual decline in your mood, it's a conversation worth having with your doctor. They can help you determine if it's a coincidence or a side effect, and whether another option might be a better fit. At number 6 are drugs so common people take them for years without a second thought: proton pump inhibitors, or PPIs. You know them as omeprazole, Prilosec, or pantoprazole, Protonix. They are the go-to treatment for acid reflux because they're incredibly effective at shutting down the acid-producing pumps in your stomach. For people with GERD, they provide profound relief, but their power may extend beyond your stomach. A growing number of observational studies initially raised alarms about a potential link between long-term PPI use and dementia. However, I want to be very clear here. More recent and thorough reviews, which account for factors like age and other health conditions, have found no convincing evidence of a causal link. A more established concern, however, is the impact these drugs have on nutrient absorption. By drastically reducing stomach acid, PPIs can impair your body's ability to absorb crucial nutrients, most notably vitamin B12 and magnesium. A vitamin B12 deficiency is a well-known cause of neurological symptoms, including memory loss, confusion, and depression. A magnesium deficiency can also contribute to agitation and anxiety. This risk isn't universal. Significant B12 deficiency occurs in a smaller fraction of long-term users. So, over years of use, a PPI could slowly contribute to a deficiency that affects your cognitive and emotional health. The benefit of healing a damaged esophagus is significant, but taking a PPI every day for years, often without a clear ongoing need, should be reevaluated with your doctor. If you're on a long-term PPI, it's wise to discuss these risks, check your B12 and magnesium levels, and ask if you still need to be on the medication. We're halfway through our list. If you're finding this information valuable, and if it's making you think, please take a moment to subscribe. Our goal is to empower you with knowledge to protect your health. And if this reminds you of someone, a parent, a friend, who is taking one of these drugs and just hasn't seemed like themselves, please consider sharing this video with them. It might provide a missing piece of the puzzle for them. Now let's get to our top 5. Entering our top 5 is one of the oldest drugs in cardiology, derived from the foxglove plant, digoxin. It's used to treat heart failure and certain irregular heartbeats. It strengthens the heart's contractions and helps it pump more efficiently. For patients with weakened hearts, it can be a crucial tool. But this old remedy carries a notorious risk of toxicity, and its psychiatric side effects are well documented. The problem with digoxin is that the line between a helpful dose and a toxic one is incredibly thin. Even at blood levels considered therapeutic, patients can experience severe neuropsychiatric changes. The most common symptom is a profound depression or apathy, but the effects can be much more acute. Digoxin toxicity can induce delirium, with severe confusion, disorientation, and even vivid hallucinations and paranoid delusions. An elderly patient might be brought to the emergency room, suddenly delirious, and the family might suspect a stroke or dementia. But often the true culprit is digoxin building up in their system and poisoning their brain. In many of these cases, once the drug is stopped, the psychiatric symptoms resolve with astonishing speed. This happens because digoxin impacts a fundamental enzyme that regulates the electrolyte balance in your cells, not just in the heart, but in the brain's neurons too. This disruption can lead to the chaos that manifests as delirium and psychosis. The risk is especially high in the elderly, whose kidneys may not clear the drug as efficiently. The life-sustaining benefit for a failing heart is real, but any patient on this medication who has a sudden change in mental status should be evaluated for digoxin toxicity immediately. At number 4 is a class of asthma and allergy drugs called leukotriene receptor antagonists. The most common one is montelukast, sold as Singulair. It's a daily pill used to control asthma by blocking inflammatory chemicals in the airways. For many, it's a convenient, non-steroidal way to manage their breathing. But this convenience is shadowed by a dark cloud of neuropsychiatric side effects, so serious that in 2020, the FDA added its most serious, boxed warning to the drug's label. The issue with montelukast is its potential to trigger a terrifying range of mood and behavioral changes, especially in children. The list of potential side effects is alarming: severe agitation, aggression, depression, vivid nightmares, and hallucinations. Most troublingly, montelukast has been associated with suicidal thoughts and actions, even in individuals with no prior history of mental illness. Parents have described their children becoming uncontrollably irritable or defiant after starting the medication. While the actual incidence of these severe events is thought to be relatively low, their severity warrants extreme caution. The exact mechanism isn't fully understood, but montelukast crosses the blood-brain barrier and may disrupt neural pathways. The link is often clear. Symptoms begin shortly after starting the drug and disappear upon stopping it. The FDA's warning underscores the risk, and they now recommend it not be the first choice for mild allergies. For any patient, especially a child, prescribed this drug, a conversation about these risks is mandatory. Families need to be on high alert for any changes in mood or behavior. Breaking into our top 3 isn't a single drug, but a broad class of them called anticholinergics. You might not know the class, but you know the drugs: oxybutynin for overactive bladder, dicyclamine for IBS, and as we discussed, older antihistamines like Benadryl. They work by blocking a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, which is involved in muscle contractions in the gut and bladder. The problem is, acetylcholine is also one of the most important neurotransmitters in your brain, essential for memory and learning. When a drug meant to calm your bladder crosses into your brain and blocks acetylcholine, the cognitive consequences can be devastating. This is one of the most well-established links between a drug class and cognitive changes. Short term, they can cause confusion, disorientation, agitation, and even hallucinations, a common and often missed cause of acute delirium in the elderly. But the long-term effects are even more frightening. A large body of evidence has shown a powerful link between the long-term use of anticholinergic drugs and an increased risk of dementia. A landmark study in JAMA Internal Medicine found that the more of these drugs you take, and for longer, the higher your risk. It suggests these drugs may actively contribute to cognitive decline. The why is direct. By blocking acetylcholine, these drugs are chemically handicapping your brain's ability to form memories and think clearly. The benefit of these drugs for conditions like incontinence is real, but the cognitive price can be high, especially for older adults. It's so important to be aware of your anticholinergic burden from all your medications. This is a crucial conversation to have with your doctor or pharmacist, who can review your medication list and look for safer alternatives. Our runner-up is one of the most widely prescribed drugs on the planet, combined oral contraceptives, or the pill. Taken by hundreds of millions of women, they contain synthetic hormones to prevent pregnancy, regulate cycles, and treat conditions like endometriosis. For many, they represent freedom and control. But for a significant number of women, this control comes at a personal cost, a change in their mood and sense of self. The link between the pill and depression is something women have reported for decades, and research is now validating these experiences. A massive Danish study of over 1 million women found that users had a higher risk of being subsequently diagnosed with depression. It's important to put this in perspective. The absolute increase in risk was small. What this and other recent studies tell us is that for some women, the link is very real and significant, while others feel no effect at all. Women report a flattening of emotions, heightened anxiety, or persistent sadness. The experience can be isolating. A woman might think something is wrong with her, not realizing her emotional reality is being reshaped by the synthetic hormones she takes every day. Mood changes are now cited as a primary reason why many women stop taking the pill. This happens because sex hormones are potent neurosteroids that influence mood-regulating brain chemicals like serotonin and dopamine. Introducing synthetic versions overrides your natural cycle. For some women's brains, this new chemical state is destabilizing. The positive side of oral contraceptives is immense. However, it's crucial that when women are prescribed the pill, the potential for mood changes is discussed as a known and possible outcome. If you are on hormonal birth control and feel like you've lost a part of yourself, it's vital to consider the pill as a potential factor and talk to your doctor. There are many different formulations and non-hormonal options available. And now, our number one medication. While others we've discussed are taken by millions daily, this one is chosen for its unique ability to hijack a person's perception of reality. Hyoscine hydrobromide, or scopolamine. It's most often used as a small patch behind the ear to prevent motion sickness. It's incredibly effective for that purpose. But scopolamine is the ultimate example of a drug that changes who you are, because it is a profoundly powerful anticholinergic and hallucinogen. Its primary mechanism, blocking acetylcholine, is so potent that it can easily and rapidly induce a state of delirium, especially in the elderly or those with even mild cognitive impairment. The personality change isn't a gradual slide. It's often an abrupt break from reality. Patients using the patch have reported severe confusion, disorientation, and frightening hallucinations. One moment a person is fine, the next they're seeing things, speaking nonsense, and can't recognize loved ones. Case reports describe elderly patients admitted for what looks like sudden onset psychosis, only for doctors to find the cause is the little patch behind their ear. Once the patch is removed, the symptoms often vanish. In fact, researchers use scopolamine in labs specifically to induce temporary memory loss and confusion in healthy people to model cognitive deficits. What makes scopolamine number one is this Jekyll and Hyde effect. It's a drug for a simple complaint, nausea, that can, in the right person, replace their personality with a confused, hallucinating stranger. The benefit is clear, but the risk of inducing psychosis is profound. It's the ultimate cautionary tale that the same chemical that calms your stomach can unleash chaos in your mind. We've just walked through 10 common medications that have the hidden potential to alter your mood, your thoughts, and your personality. Now, let me be absolutely clear. The purpose of this was not to tell you to stop your medication. These drugs are often essential and life-saving. Stopping them abruptly can have severe, even fatal consequences. The purpose was to arm you with awareness. So the next time you or someone you love experiences an unexplained change, new depression, sudden anxiety, a fog of confusion, you can ask the question, could it be the medication? Always speak to your doctor or pharmacist before making any changes. Have an open conversation. And remember, most people take these medications with no psychological effects at all. Be your own best advocate. Your mind is worth protecting.